Manchester United must replace Casemiro this summer. That is what most Manchester United fans are saying at the moment, particularly after that performance against Everton, where, let's be honest, he was pretty terrible. He made some horrendous decisions on the ball, he struggled to cover a lot of the ground, he had some real issues. Now, I think it's important we make one thing clear. Casemiro is a very good footballer. He's a good leader, he's a hard worker, and in terms of on the ball, he's a good long passer at times. His direct passing can be really good. Out of possession, his box defence is very good. He's also good in the tackle. But I just don't feel that he is right any longer for Manchester United and a direction that this club wants to move in, for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons being, in possession, he is not a player which can receive the ball in the first phase. Again, against Everton, we really saw this. He just couldn't receive the ball in his areas. Anytime he did, it would lead to a turnover in possession. That was a real issue. Another issue is that when Manchester United do, on the rare occasion, try and build a slightly slower attack, try and keep the ball a little bit more, Casemiro just doesn't want to do that. He wants to play quite a direct style, get the ball into the channels, quickly into the forwards, into Bruno Fernandes. He plays too forward, too quickly, so he doesn't really suit us in possession. But also, out of possession, I think he has an issue as well, and that is simply the fact that he is ageing. And particularly in a system which is horrendous at United, incredibly open, it leaves Casemiro with a lot of ground to cover. And I just don't think he can do it. So what Manchester United needs to try and find in the market is a 6 or an 8, a 6-8 hybrid, that sort of player, which can either receive the ball in the first phase and be a high volume player, or someone who is incredibly good at duelling. Ideally, we get both. Let's take a look at 4 potential options. So the first option is Mats Wieffer of Feyenoord, someone who has developed into a high volume player. Feyenoord are very tactically well set up, and as a result, they have a lot of the ball in a lot of games. Therefore, Wieffer is used to playing in a high possession side, meaning that he has transitioned into a high volume player, someone who sees a lot of the ball in the game and has a lot of touches. However, that doesn't necessarily mean he is a first phase specialist. In the build-up phase, it is quite rare for him to be the player receiving the first pass. Instead, it will often be his partner in midfield drops deep, and Wieffer pushes a little bit further forward. So that would certainly be something to consider. In terms of when Wieffer does eventually get the ball though, a really good passer. Really very good with his passing, keeps it ticking over quite nicely, but also a brilliant ball carrier. Something which I feel the United midfield lacks. Bruno Fernandes can't do it at all. Kobbie Mainoo I think has the ability and the potential to do it, but we don't really see it that regularly. Wieffer thrives. His ball carrying in European competition this season, just incredible. Really good at driving forward through the pitch using his size to power his way up the pitch. Those traits are probably what I would describe as Wieffer's strengths in possession. Being a high volume player, and then when he does get the ball, striding forward with the ball and carrying it forward for his side. However, whilst those may be his strengths, he of course also has weaknesses. This is not a complete package. And my big concern with Wieffer is that he tends to be a player which likes to be quite direct. He likes to get the ball forward nice and quickly. Now, that doesn't have too great an impact on his passing accuracy because he is a good passer of the ball. But in terms of if we're saying Casemiro isn't the right profile because he plays forward so quickly, Wieffer does do something similar. Now, this might be tactical instruction. We don't know for sure what he is being asked to do, but it is a slight concern that I have. The other concern would be that he isn't a first phase specialist. Could that work at United? Maybe, because perhaps Kobbie Mainoo could be coached into that first phase specialist next season, so perhaps that would make up for it. But those would be my concerns with Wieffer. In terms of on the ball, is he a bit too direct? And is he a first phase player? However, out of possession, he makes up for it. Because this is a duelling machine, a duelling monster. Incredibly good in the ground duel. Aerial duels, not so much. But across the ground, he gets into a lot of duels across the pitch, and 9 times out of 10, he is going to win them. Very, very effective off the ball, but also good at covering the ground. Not the quickest guy you're ever going to see, but he's got a big frame. He kind of drives his way up and down the pitch, covers a lot of ground for his side, making him a really effective ball winner. So in terms of that aspect, he would definitely be an upgrade on Casemiro. In terms of his duel-winning ability out of possession, his ground coverage, and then in possession, his ability to carry the ball forward, but also his pass completion rate. So Wieffer is definitely an option for United.
So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFifa.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. and also make sure to use code JerseyFIFA for 10% off when you order.
Another potential option for United in the transfer window is Alan Varela, who recently moved to Porto just last summer, a player which we've been watching for a long time, and we keep mentioning him on the channel, a very good player who Porto have really developed this season, in my opinion. I think he's gone to the next level. However, he's a very different type of player to what Max Wieffer is. Instead of being this kind of engine in the midfield, Varela is someone who wants to drop a little bit deeper and be all about dictating the play, dictating the tempo, spreading passes from left to right, left to right, left to right, keeping it ticking over in the middle. Now, one of the reasons why he's so able to do this is because he's very, very intelligent. In terms of his usage of his body to protect the ball, to manipulate the opposition, to give himself a little space, he's absolutely brilliant. He's really good at doing this. And it has this effect of always looking like he's a step ahead of everyone else. He's always got more time on the pitch than everyone else. But that is simply because he positions himself so well. He gets his body into brilliant positions, and it allows him to work the ball into a bit of space before then looking to, at times, be expansive with his passing, quickly move the ball forward into the forwards, but also, at the right time, slowing it down a little bit. Playing it sideways to your midfield partner, or back to your centre-backs, or to one of your full-backs. Varela's understanding of controlling and dictating tempo is absolutely brilliant, and that is the big thing which he would bring and really upgrade in the United midfield. He's also pretty good from a defensive point of view as well. Not the biggest player in the world, you know, this isn't a 6'4" destroyer as such, more of a slightly smaller, perhaps tenacious player. Someone who wants to sort of get about the pitch, go into tackles, make life difficult for the opposition, terrier-like. So when they are getting the ball in these areas, go after them, hunt them down, get into the tackle, be a little bit annoying, kind of clipping at the heels a little bit, which is something which United could do with in the midfield. However, the concern would be that Varela doesn't cover that much ground. Whilst he does like to go into the tackle, he's not an elite level dual winner. Partnered alongside someone like Casemiro, perhaps that would be a concern. So it's about how you weigh it up. You are getting a lot of in-possession benefits in terms of his passing ability, a high volume tempo controller, but out of possession, whilst he is good, whilst he is strong, he's not going to eat up tons of ground. So it might work in a different system, under Ten Hag, potentially not. So again, Varela is another really good option, someone which United could consider, but there's also other options as well. One of those options is currently playing for Sporting in Portugal. Hjulmand. Really good in the duel. And whilst Varela was a little bit lacking in physicality, Hjulmand does not. Now, apologies for the pronunciation of his name. I believe it's Hjulmand, but I'm not actually too sure. But this is a strong, clever battler and dueler. Very, very good in challenge. 1-versus-1 situations in midfield. He dominates those scenarios. Very, very good at using his body, using his big size. But again, it's about having the intelligence to go with that. We see it sometimes where these players are big, but they don't really know how to use their size to, disrupt the opposition, to win the ball back. This man doesn't have that. This Danish midfielder is very, very good at winning the ball back for his side in midfield because, again, he's intelligent, but also got the physical traits to go with it. And I see him as sort of the perfect double pivot, dueling, screening midfielder. I'm not sure that he's a true 6 in the sense of wanting to be a solo pivot in midfield, but in a double pivot, someone who is given a license to sometimes get forward, sometimes drop deeper, screen in front of this defence at times, sometimes be box to box, get involved in duels, be a bit of an all-action player. Hjulmand's got that. He's really got that. He's also really good on the ball as well. So not only is this a player which is very defensively strong, he's good in possession. Not the best passer you're ever going to see, not the most expansive passer. He's not of that elite level, but he's by no means terrible on the ball. Very technically sound, very technically secure. He can take the ball in tight spaces. He can beat a man when needed. It's not a massive side of his game, but when he does get himself in a spot bother, a player closing him down, he can go past that player. And then his forward passing is something which, in my opinion, has really improved over the past 6 months or so. He's very good now at moving the ball forward for his side. But it's about, again, the timing of when you do it. Not always pumping the ball forward because then you just lose possession for the sake of it. He is good at sometimes going forward, but then on the next pass, he'll slow it down a little bit. He'll keep the ball for his side. And I think that's a really good trait for him to have. My only concern with Hjulmand would be, one, is he that high volume midfielder? I don't think so. I think he could become it, but he's not a true 6 in that sense once again. But also, his ground coverage. Now, a lot of the time, he will make up for it with intelligence, with positioning, with reading of the play. He'll kind of be one step ahead. But there are situations where he can be a little bit caught out in midfield, where suddenly he's got to make up a lot of ground. And again, he's no slouch. He's not terribly slow, but he's also not the quickest. He's not a ground-eating profile in midfield. So again, a really good player, which could be a good option. But again, there are strengths and weaknesses. Another player with these strengths and weaknesses, which could sign for Manchester United this summer, Amadou Onana of Everton. We've spoken about him plenty of times in the past, so we don't need too much coverage here. You are getting yourself an elite machine, a physical freak in midfield. Unbelievably tall, strong, stride length, speed, everything. But also just very, very good in the tackle. This is a dueling master. For me, probably the best midfielder in the Premier League if you want someone to win the ball back for you. He is so good in the duels. Those long legs, but also his big body size, his big frame, his ability to muscle people off the ball. Absolutely ridiculous. He's also, though, in my opinion, really underrated in possession. People label him as this destroyer, this ball winner, and then they kind of skip what he does on the ball. I think he's really good on the ball, and I think he's, again, taken big strides in his game and improved massively. The big thing I like about him is his switches of the play. Now, Everton are a side which, of course, don't have a lot of the ball, unless they're playing against United. But in general, they don't have too much of the ball. So for Onana to still rank so well for switches just shows how good he is at it and how much he likes to use that pass. Something which, in my opinion, epitomises the modern day six. Someone who potentially can sit a little bit deeper and kind of spray these passes from side to side. And I think that goes some way to answering one of the big questions around Onana. Can he be an actual 6 or is he an 8? I think at the moment he's an 8, but this season for Everton he has started to play deeper and deeper and deeper into that 6th position, and he is showing traits which suggest he can play this role. He doesn't give the ball away very often in terms of miscontrols. He has a decent amount of touches considering the side he's playing for. He's very good with his switches of play. I would like to see him perhaps use his size a bit more in possession at times with ball carrying and things like that. I think he's got all the tools to be an elite level ball carrier, but we don't see it on a regular enough basis. And then, of course, out of possession, his strengths are pretty obvious. Unbelievably good in the duel, very good in the air as well, wins pretty much every header which comes anywhere near him, which would be huge for this United side, by the way. The concern would be, at times he has this trait, I feel, where when he decides to cover the ground and go win the ball back, he does it quite effortlessly, really. But there seems to be situations where he's not desperate. He's not desperate to get back and recover for his side. And that can leave a space or two. It's something which I recommend you kind of keep an eye on next time you watch him. It is just something which is there in his game a little bit. But perhaps that would change if he was utilised purely as a 6, where his role is to protect the defence and then move the ball out from the back of his side. Again, another weakness would perhaps be he's just not elite in the first phase. He's no bum, in these areas. He's good on the ball. But he's not an elite technician in these positions. But in my opinion, good enough. Good enough. And I think he would be a good signing for Manchester United. I think pretty much every player on this list so far would. I think they are all players which United should be targeting. And I do believe that in one way or another, they are all upgrades on Casemiro. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think they are all upgrades on Casemiro? Do you even think Casemiro needs to leave? If he does, is there a different option you want? Someone completely different? Or if it is one of these players, which one do you prefer the most for this United side? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But apart from that, we are finished for today. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.